Hello, everybody, and welcome to another video. Today's video is going to be quite technical, and it's regarding actually down in Australia some very recent legislation that has been passed. So let's take a closer look and let's see what exactly we wanted to cover on today's video. So, as you can perhaps see here, um, the 20th of April, ASIC. So, just for reference, just in case you're wondering, what is the ASIC? ASIC.gov.au is ASIC is sometimes referred to as ASIC, is Australia's Integrated Corporate Markets, Financial Services, and Consumer Credit Regulator. All right, and then if you scroll down to the About Us page about ASIC, it just says ASIC is Australia's Integrated Corporate Markets, Financial Services, and Consumer Credit Regulator. Um, independent is an independent government body. Talks about when it was created in the ASIC Act of 2001, Australian Securities and Investment Commission Act. So the goal of ASIC is to maintain, facilitate, and improve the performance of financial systems and entities in it, promote confident and informed participation by investors and consumers in the financial system, administer the law effectively and with minimal procedural requirements, receive, process, and store efficiently and quickly information we receive, make information about companies and other bodies available to the public as soon as practicable, take whatever action we can and which is necessary to enforce and give effect to the law. Okay? Now, back to the recent press release, the recent sort of announcement. Want to clarify what's going on there. So, take a little look here. The article was published on the 20th of April. Okay, so a little over a month ago. And let's just go through it. So ASIC's roadmap for digital assets law reform implementation. So ASIC intends to issue new regulatory guidance and set out certain operational standards as part of implementing new laws that bring digital asset platforms, DAP, and tokenized custody platforms, TCPs, under the Financial Services Licensing Regime from April of 2027, which is just under a year from now in May of 2026. Okay, so the Corporations Amendment, Digital Assets Framework Act 2026, the DAF Act, passed Parliament on the 1st of April 2026. It received royal assent on the 8th of April 2026 and will commence on the 9th of April 2027, which is next year. Okay, so this DAF, Digital Assets Framework Act, provides for an 18-month implementation timeline. So, under the new regime, ASIC, which is again the government body, is tasked with licensing and supervising these platforms, meaning digital asset platforms, DAPs, and tokenized custody platforms, TCPs, and with enforcing the law as required. Okay, so to assist the industry, ASIC has set out its roadmap for implementing a new regime. This includes meaning ASIC's expected timeline and approach to consulting on the new standards and guidance, including early indications of the content that will be covered. So, here we go on the asic.gov.au website, the roadmap for the next 18 months. So you can see here, as of last month, April 2026, Corporations Amendment passes Parliament. then the release of the roadmap, which we're going to discuss now, and then into Q2 of 2026, the industry roundtables, right, for DAP reforms industry advisory group established. Okay. Once again, digital asset platforms. So then June, which is really next month effectively, which is the end of Q2 of 2026, you're going to have the no action position arising from INFO 225 updates, which ends. And then later in calendar year 2026, you're going to have proposed release of consultation paper, 6-week consultation period, ASIC publication, and then end of 2026, entering Q1 of 2027, ongoing updates, further developing package, and then by mid of 2027 next year, Q1, mid of Q1, let's say February, if required, simple consultations and updated rules and standards. So, also anticipated in this roadmap for Q1 of 2027 next year would be the DAP TCP regulatory guides. In other words, the digital asset platforms and the tokenized custody platforms guides, okay, published, released for the public to consume Q1 of 2027. And then just under a year from now, April of 2027 next year, licensing application window and portal will open. Then middle of next calendar year, the ongoing industry engagement ahead of applications. And then at the end of this sort of roadmap, 18-month roadmap, by October 2027, the transition window will be ending. So then the ASIC website has provided a little bit further breakdown chronologically for this roadmap. So you can see here months 1 through 6. So first noted on the article here is stakeholder roundtables and industry advisory groups. So conduct stakeholder roundtables and discussions, including through meaning ASIC's regular FinTech liaison meetings, and establish an industry advisory group as announced back in March 2026, which is 2 months ago. Consultation on standards and guidance, consult with industry or regulatory guidance and operational standards to be set out in legislative instruments, okay? And then the expiration of class no action positions. So access to the INFO 225 class no action position will expire in June. Very interesting. So entities will need to comply with existing licensing requirements throughout the implementation of the law reforms. Then months 6 through 12 for this 18-month roadmap. So really end of calendar year 2026, entering 2027. New regulatory guidance, release new regulatory guide for the DAPs and TCPs, covering how the new law operates and who is likely to require a license under the regime. Then setting of standards, make regulatory instruments setting standards for the operators of DAPs and TCPs, including asset holding standards, transactional and settlement standards, and financial requirements. And then at the end of the roadmap that they have created here, months 12 through 18, at the applications open. So DAP and TCP operators can lodge financial service license applications and operate under regulatory relief until their applications are processed. And then month 18 onwards, full implementation of the new regime, including ASIC supervision and enforcement. So ASIC is to consult on standards and guidance. As part of the implementation process, ASIC intends to set certain standards for operators of DAPs and TCPs as contemplated by the DAF Act, which was recently passed and to go into effect these last few weeks. So ASIC will consult on standards including asset holding standards, which is noted here, S912BE, and then transactional and settlement standards, which is known as S912BF, and financial requirements similar to how we already implement these in Regulatory Guide 166 AFS licensing financial requirements, RG 166. Okay, so ASIC also intends to produce some regulatory guidance about the new laws, standards, and how we, meaning ASIC, will license and supervise firms. So it says, while we, meaning ASIC, do not intend to repeat any existing regulatory guidance, ASIC are considering navigation aids. Example, a catalog or index to help industry with the existing guidance. Now, during the transition period, we, ASIC, expect to seek views on a range of topics, including the need for new regulatory guidance, okay? Our approach, meaning ASIC's approach to applying our discretion in the regime were appropriate. Example, in relation to responsible managers. Right. Okay, that's quite key. And then standard conditions that apply to platform licensees. Okay. A potential streamlining of the license variation process for certain cohorts of firms. Example, those who have only recently obtained a license under Information Sheet 225, the Digital Assets, Financial Products and Services Info 225. So, ASIC will develop any new standards and guidance in line with ASIC's their broader regulatory simplification work. So the link here is regarding just overall simplification for ASIC, that hyperlink, but then it goes on. We expect the guidance will be principles based, and additional guidance will only be provided where necessary. This may mean that not all issues can or will be addressed by our guidance. So Table 1 sets out our early thinking on topics to be covered by our new standards and financial requirements. So Table 1, if you click here, indicative topics covered in standard setting consultation. Very comprehensive here. So you've got some bullet points. Really quite detailed. So if we go through it, Table 1, indicative topics covered in standard setting consultation. So standard, the transactional and settlement standards. A new standard under Section 912BF informed by the market integrity rules covering topics such as an obligation to operate the platform in a fair, orderly, and transparent manner for markets or match principle style platforms, execution and trading practices, for example, best execution, pre and post trade price transparency and other trading related disclosures, example, method of execution of transaction and source of the digital assets, listing and admission criteria. Then you have supervision of trading on or through the platform, example, monitoring for and dealing with users who undertake trading misconduct and market abuse on the platform and making suspicious activity reports to ASIC, okay? Operational resilience and orderly markets, example, monitoring for abnormal prices, trading halts and suspensions, security and business continuity, appropriate record keeping, of course, fair and effective settlement arrangements, whether internal to the platform or not, appropriate contractual arrangements with market makers operating on the platform, all right. And then it mentions here the standards could cater for differing operating models, example, custody only, brokers, market making, DAPs, matched principal and market style platforms, corporate structures, example, vertically integrated or not, and whether assets offered through the DAP or TCP are financial products. Okay. Goes on here regarding asset holding standards. So a new standard under Section 912BE based on existing principles based asset holding standards. You can see Regulatory Guide 133 Funds Management and Custodial Services Holding Assets RG133 covering holding assets on trust or in other equivalent approaches for assets held outside this jurisdiction, segregation of client assets and money from the DAP or TCP operators' assets and money, okay, segregation of funds. Then it says use of the underlying assets in accordance with client instructions, okay, organizational structure and adequate staffing and security arrangements, okay, record keeping, reconciliation, and reporting. Also here, client withdrawal rights and associated liquidity requirements, example, ability to transfer digital assets off the platform. also here, use and supervision of service providers. Okay, now the other point here from Table 1, financial requirements. The components of these requirements will likely include a cash needs, a liquidity requirement, a net tangible assets requirement, and then requirement to have the financial requirements reviewed regularly by a registered company auditor. Now, there's also a Table 2, so Table 2 sets out what we, meaning ASIC, propose to consult on for their regulatory guidance. So let's click here where it says guidance document topics intended to be covered during consultation. And we've got here potential guidance documents. So let's start here with DAP TCP regulatory guide. A new regulatory guide covering basics of the new law, example definitions and perimeter, who is likely to require a license to operate a DAP and or a TCP, and what other authorizations may be required, and then how DAPs and TCPs interact with existing financial products and services and the Australian financial market and CS facility regimes. So the asset holding and transactional and settlement standards, see above, as well as directions to more information about the general obligations. Okay, so it says here, applying for and varying on AFS license, updated to include references to apply for authorizations to operate DAPs and TCPs, cross-reference to DAP TCP regulatory guide for items specific to licenses in relation to those products. AFS licensing financial requirements RG 166, updates to RG 166 to include the financial requirements for DAPs and TCPs. And then it mentions also here, Table 2, other RGs and info sheets as required. So minor updates to include references to DAPs and TCPs and cross-reference to the new DAP TCP regulatory guide as appropriate. This may occur over a period of time when those RGs and information sheets are next updated. And then the bottom of the article here on the ASIC website. Next steps. Our next steps include arranging stakeholder roundtables and discussions, including through our regular FinTech liaison meetings, and establishing an industry advisory group as announced in March 2026. C, shaping a stronger future for the Asia Pacific. And then the other mentioning here is develop a consultation package on standards and guidance outlined above. So stakeholders are also able to contact us, meaning ASIC, by email at that email address here. What I also noted from a different website, this one is a firm, so it was more of a comment. So it was also a brief noting. So this is from gtlaw.com.au. ASIC has released its roadmap for implementing the new digital assets framework, setting out its expected timeline and approach to consulting on new standards and guidance ahead of the April 27 commencement date. And similarly to what we just covered, it's going through the key points of the phases, the consultation on standards and regulatory guidance, what steps would be next. So overall, we've got here from this recent article some really interesting news. And for a lot of us who have been busy thinking about digital assets in the modern age, and for a lot of us who have been thinking about how to build a really high quality tech stack that checks all the boxes and is proactive regarding regulations and embracing these higher standards, it's overall very good for the industry to embrace these modern efforts. And I know that one of the objectives, as noted on the ASIC website, is in the sort of spirit of transparency. So naturally in Web3, A lot of this is on the blockchain anyways, but from what I was mentioning in a different video, the white paper video, there's a lot of key points that are pointing to cryptodeposit.org as attempting to really set a much higher bar, a higher standard on a lot of the points outlined from this article here, as noted by the authorities down in Australia. And with that being said, we are pretty much wrapped up for this video with respect to a very interesting piece of legislation regarding digital assets, and wanted to go through it just to give a little bit more perspective on proactivity and striving for much more high quality transmission of information, as we've noted on the white paper video, all of the various new bits of programming and coding that are really quite unmatched in many ways. We will continue to study how we can improve on the technology even further. So once again, thanks for your attention to this video. If you like what you are viewing, certainly feel free to like the video, subscribe, all that good stuff. Or if you are familiar with other people who are equally or more passionate about digital assets and this type of regulation and legal opinions that are coming into effect, coming into law, and how it affects all of those in the industry, you might want to share this video so they can understand what cryptodeposit.org is doing to improve the global standard and set really a much higher bar when it comes to transparency with this type of financial technology. So thanks again, and hopefully see you soon on a video in the short future.